Hey everyone, Mitch coming in with the Bears Core Studio. Welcome to the show. Well, if you haven't seen my episode on the Colossal Dreadmaw, make sure you check that one out because, Gavin showed off some really exciting things at MagicCon Barcelona. I believe that's where it happened. We got to see some really cool playtest cards and some really cool concepts, including, well, the Colossal Dreadmaw. Again, did I mention that the Colossal Dreadmaw should be a thing? Make sure you check that episode out. But don't leave just yet. Stick around for this one because we got a lot of exciting new concepts and new kinds of cards that, well, some might think should be a thing, some might think shouldn't be a thing. I actually am kind of coming into this without really kind of like actually evaluating these cards first. I thought it'd be kind of funny to actually, not funny, but more fun to actually kind of just go through these cards, you know, one at a time without having actually looked at them really. I mean, I looked at like the general ones to make sure that like it was going to be, you know, interesting enough to talk about, but also, hey, I want to give you just kind of like my honest kind of immediate feedback on these and not kind of overthink it. I just want to give you kind of my gut reaction on what I think about these and, well, if I think these kinds of concepts should exist in Magic. So with all that said, let's jump into it. Now, I do want to remind you, looking at Lava, Axe. That's hilarious. These cards are obviously playtest cards. They are not real. I mean, they are real. They physically exist. Gavin brought them, made them, whatever, okay? They exist. That being said, you can't just go purchase this. And also, they are not clearly legal in any format, including Commander. But, you know, maybe one day we'll get cards like this. We shall see. Again, it's just a playtest card to kind of see if this concept would actually work. And what an interesting concept this one is. Again, Lava, Axe. Obviously, a reference to Lava Axe, but without the comma. For 4 and a red sorcery. Spell Commander. This card can be your commander. In limited, it can partner like other monocolor legends. Interesting. That's very specific. I mean, what matters, obviously, for us commander players is, hey, it can be your commander. So having a spell just be your commander, that's pretty interesting. Now, let's keep going. Deals 5 damage target player planeswalker. That's just kind of funny. Again, just basically what Lava Axe does. Just being able to just, hey, 5 damage, bam, 5 damage, bang. Just 5 damage, burning things down left and right. I guess just burning players down on their planeswalkers, not their creatures. But just having a spell in your command zone is an interesting concept. Being able to say, yeah, I'm just going to keep Lava Axing my opponents now. I would assume with these spell commanders, obviously commander attacks would be applied as well. But yeah, you basically just cast it. It would hit your graveyard right after it resolves, and then you would just say, okay, back to the command zone, and then again and again and again. So pretty interesting. Now, we have actually seen kind of this concept already in Commander, and none of the cards that actually do this get banned or have been banned. Like Exodus, Auric Overlord. I mean, that is a decently popular commander, but it's not really Exodus that is the popular side of it. I think Awaken the Blood Avatar is the back, which is a sorcery, and yeah, that's what the vast majority of players build around. And actually, I believe I did an episode on that one, so make sure you check that out at some point. But yeah, being able to have like a spell as your commander is already kind of a thing because of MDFCs, essentially. And with that, yeah, I mean, we already kind of have that. They aren't banned in Commander. They work in Commander. Many players enjoy them. Some players don't like them. But yeah, being able to see just, even without kind of that MDAFC kind of like, you know, workaround to have a spell commander, to see an actual just spell commander like this would be interesting going forward to see if Wizards actually does this and just says, you know what, instead of building your deck around like an actual creature, you can now build your deck around this and just see what happens. I mean, we already again have that with like Awaken the Blood Avatar, etc., etc. But there's only so many of those. So yeah, definitely an interesting concept overall. Moving on. Soul Drainer. A 4/5 giant wizard for 5 and a black with Death Touch. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target commander and opponent controls. Remove all commander damage that commander dealt to you. You don't gain life, just treat it as though commander damage from that commander move down to 0. That's interesting because there are very few things that you really can't interact with, right? Like poison counters. Yeah, you can't really take those off yourself, essentially. I mean, again, like emblems, you can't take those out currently, I don't believe either. Like Planeswalker emblems. And then also commander damage. That's just something, again, that just inherently you just can't interact with. But now with this kind of new concept, you could. And you'd say, hey, Voltron decks, you know how, like, you already maybe might not be the best kind of decks out there? Let's just take you down a little further. Now, obviously, this is a pretty niche card that is like, it wouldn't just see immediately like an amazing amount of play unless you like really wanted to troll your friend that has, loves Voltron decks essentially. Like that could be a way to do it. And obviously you have a blink effect that could work with this too, taking out creature again and again and again. This is very specific again on what it does. ETB, take out a commander, has to be a commander to do so. But yeah, removing that commander damage is very interesting because again, if you're like at, I don't know, 18 commander damage from someone, you're like, oh gosh, like I've got all this life and I'm in a great position, but if that player hits me one more time with their commander, I'm gone. And you say, oh, let's just take it down to 0. Cool, I'm fine. Okay, I can breathe a little bit. So it's an interesting concept, again, being able to interact with something that we previously have not been able to interact with or really stop at all. Obviously, this doesn't stop you if from getting taken out if, the opponent just Voltrons so well that they hit you for 21. But if they hit you for any less than that, you're fine. And you can actually, again, just take that down to 0. I mean, you're not fine. Your life total is going down too, but you can take that down to 0, which is just kind of interesting. So we shall see if, this kind of a concept ends up actually working out. Yeah, let me in the comments below, again, about all these things. But yeah, let me know what you think. Do you think commander damage should be interacted with? Do you think that that would be fair? Do you think that would be not fair? Do you think it's just something that should happen or just shouldn't happen? Just inherently, it's a part of commander that, 21 commander damage, it takes you out. Are you able to now interact with that? Let's see. Moving on, Clear the Mind. Sorcery for 2 and a blue. Again, spell commanders. We are seeing more of these spell commanders, apparently. Again, can be your commander, and limited can partner. Target player shuffles their graveyard in the library, draw a card. This is an interesting one. Where, I mean, I could see this going in some kind of an infinite combo strategy where you're just drawing your entire deck and then probably like reshuffling or whatever. I mean, if you're already going infinite, you probably have a way to just win. But having a card that can say, you know what? This is a sorcery, which is interesting, and we've only seen sorcery so far. Like an instant speed spell commander would be really interesting. But a way to say, yeah, you know what? I've got like a perpetual way to make sure that I don't mill out, which is nice, essentially. If you're really worried about that, if you've got players in a play group that love milling, cool. Now you've got a way to say, cool, as long as they're milling me, not exiling the cards to top my library, I can have a way to deal with that and a way to stay in the game. Also, a way to say, hey, player over there that's playing self-mill, reanimator, whatever you're playing, let's just shut you down. My commander is a spell that just shuts you down again and again and again. And obviously provides card advantage as well, at least card replacement, I guess, when you're playing this, but it's your commander, so you can keep recasting it. Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, I do think that additional commander tax would apply, kind of like Awaken the Blood Avatar, but still, being able to recast this to either save yourself or to set an opponent back, if that's their strategy, that would be an interesting concept, so we shall see. Moving on, Try My Deck Elemental. Okay, here we go. A 4/3 elemental with flying that costs 3 and a white. Wizard, you have my interest. Commander spells you cast have Demonstrate. Interesting. When you cast a commander spell, you may copy it. If you do, choose an opponent to also copy it. The copies become tokens. The legend rule is applied to commanders you control. Interesting. So, yeah, being able to demonstrate this is very interesting, to be able to just copy it and then have your opponent also copy it. I think this would be kind of more of like a 99 card, just to kind of immediate, again, gut feedback. I don't like kind of go in and actually just like really like tear these apart and like figure out exactly what I do with them. But yeah, like just having this as your commander. Okay, cool. Like I have 2 commander versions of this. Woo, the legend rule really doesn't apply to my commanders, but this is my commander. Actually, never mind. Again, mistake right here for me not actually reading this ahead. This is not a commander. This is not legendary. So, interesting. Yeah, just basically giving decks, again, it would have to be the 99 then, giving decks the ability to say, you know what, now I can demonstrate my commander, get copies of my commander, and just being able to kind of use and abuse that, kind of like having like Sakashima, essentially, just being able to like copy my commander and really caring about getting extra copies of it in play, and maybe having some really cool, gross effects. There's a lot of commanders out there that you want to be able to duplicate, essentially. This is yet another way to do that. And being able to choose an opponent to copy it as well is pretty interesting. You can do some very, again, like very political things with that. If you've got, a absolutely gross commander, and you're like, hey, like I'm getting extra value, right? That's fair. But you can also have extra value. Here you go, have this. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. Again, my apologies for not reading the entire card. Reading the card explains the card, right? Not legendary, this one. But yeah, giving your commanders demonstrate. That's a very interesting concept, as long as the legend rules apply, obviously. So yeah, there's already decks out there that love, like, mirror box and those kind of things, like really using and abusing, legendary matters kind of thing. So there you go. Moving on. Math is for blockers. Hilarious. A sorcery for 4, red. Damage can't be prevented this turn. Creatures you control have double strike, trample, and must attack if able until end of turn. I mean, that's just very flavorful, right? Not wanting to, actually math out, who I should be sending what where, or, can I take this player out? Am I leaving myself wide open? That's a very Commander player thing to do. You probably don't see that at other tournaments. I mean, I guess Commanders aren't really tournaments, but you don't see that in like Standard or Modern or whatnot. They're not like, whatever, just throw it at you, hope it takes you out. No, in Commander, it's like, whatever, like, it's been a 3-hour game. I should probably just, swing out and see if I can take you out. So yeah, making damage not be able to prevent it, that's great. Double strike, trample, and you have to swing with everything. Cool. Have fun. Swing out, and your opponent, you might take them out, you might not. Again, you might take out one of your opponents, or none of them. You might take them all out. They've got to do the math, not you, because you know what? You're just swinging. That's all you care about. Double things up. That seems pretty exciting. It would be a pretty fun card if it was actually to exist. I don't think they'd call it that. Maybe they would. It'd be just very, very on the nose. But yeah, definitely a cool concept. A card that I think could exist. And again, one that, leaves you wide open, but it might just be a great finisher for you as well. Next up, Dock Breacher. Interesting. So obviously this is referring to a couple things, I'm sure. 2/3 Merfolk Pirate Flash. There we go. Okay. So yeah, this is a reference to a card that may or may not have gotten banned a little while ago. 4/2 and a blue. An opponent create a treasure token beyond the first one they create each turn. Instead, you draw a card. Okay, so kind of like the reverse of Rulebreaker. And it's like Dockside Extortionist / Rulebreaker kind of thing, I guess. Interesting. So, yeah, I mean, this would be a way to combat treasures. That being said, giving that player an absurd amount of cards is also probably not the answer. I mean, again, this is kind of... I hope it's a joke card because... I mean, okay, I guess this should be a very specific way to really combat treasures. But again, when it's like someone like plays Dockside Extortionist, which again, many players out there have contended on whether that should be banned or not, and they make like 20 treasures and someone just flashes this in, and instead of that player getting, more, they get 1 treasure, right, instead of 20, but then that player who flashed in Dock Breacher gets 19 cards drawn for 3 mana. I don't know if that's the greatest thing either. So yeah, kind of just like reversing this. It's very interesting. Yeah, I don't know if this would be a legal card. Again, couldn't you just make one where it's like you don't really get... I mean, like maybe if it's like if opponent would create more than 1 token than the first one they create in a turn, they don't. Maybe that could be a solution instead. Just like, hey, you can make 1 token in a turn. Good for you. Whether it's creature tokens or, treasure tokens, whatever it is. Shutting down that, I think might be a better approach. Obviously, Wizards like to make big flashy cards, and this would be pretty big and flashy to say like, oh, cool, yeah, let's just, you come in, you take out, that big player your opponent was about to have, Brass's Bounty, whatever, they're going to play Dockside Extortionist, whatever, there's a multitude of ways to make a ton of treasures these days, and now instead you're like, hey, I get all that value instead. Now I don't get the treasures, but I do get a ton of cards drawn. So again, it's kind of interesting, like, again, like kind of a combination of like Dockside Extortionist, Rulebreaker. Very interesting. I hope it doesn't exist. Moving on. Mysterious Confluence, an instant for 5 mana. Choose a card at random from Righteous Confluence, Mystic Confluence, Wretched Confluence, Fire Confluence, Verdant, Brokers, Cabaretti, Maestros, Obscura, and Riveteers. Create a copy of that card. You may cast a copy of Hangman's Mana cost. Roll a d10 to choose the card. I like this a lot. That's really interesting. Now, is this card any good? Probably not, because it's very situational on what you're going to get, right? Like, you might get something that really doesn't help you out in the situation you're in. It's completely random, 1 out of 10 chance to get you the card that you might want. Again, maybe you want like a couple of them, but also like you're probably just playing this in a very random way because you're not going to it does take a lot of brain power to try to remember what every single one of those does. And be like, okay, I need to counter this spell, or I need to destroy this artifact, right? How many of those things can help interact with this? And like each of those confluences have like 3 different modes. So yeah, there's a lot going on here. I think it'd be really interesting. It'd be really cool in a chaos deck. Really cool in a deck that just wants to play this and copy it. Also, you could do it in a 3-color deck as well. Yeah, that traffic light card I think would work with it too. Actually, nah, I don't know. Anyways, I guess cast away paying its mana cost. Yeah, anyways. Crazy things can be had with this. I think it's a really cool concept. I don't think something like this would exist, but you never know. We got like Garth, which kind of like broke into that, like, hey, create a copy of the card, essentially. Like, again, and that brought back, Black Lotus, Regrowth, all those kinds of cards. So you can like cast copies of cards that like aren't actually in your deck. So yeah, there's definitely some cool design space here. Maybe this will be a thing. Let me know in the console what your thoughts are on this one. It's a very interesting one. Next up, Barse Friend Finder. Barse, is that the name? 2/3 Human Wizard. This one is legendary. There you go. I can read. 4/2 in a blue. You may play Barse in any other legend with 1 color identity or less as your commander, as though they each had partner. Whenever another legendary creature you control dies, you may put it in your command zone. It replaces one of your commanders. Weird. Also, apparently this is a prize card for the unknown event at Magic Con Barcelona. Interesting. Yeah, that's really weird and really crazy. So congratulations to whoever got this. Regardless, so again, you can play this in any other legend with 1 color identity or less as your commander. So again, you could have a 2-color deck essentially, right? With this can be anything plus blue. This is just, you know, you can do Simic, you can do, I guess anything plus blue, I should say. And then also, just you could do, I guess, mono blue if you wanted to. You could also get a colorless commander and still do mono blue. Regardless, this is like, hey, this is an additional commander. That being said, the interesting thing here is you can just have essentially any other legendary creature you control when it dies can go into your command zone and replace one of your commanders. So just like, it's a very interesting way to say, hey, like, I don't care about that other commander in there now. I'm actually, you know what? I've got a legendary Tribal Matters deck essentially, and I'm just going to take out whatever commander I have in there and switch it out with this better one that I need right now, or whatever it is essentially. So you can do some pretty crazy things with this, I am sure. Rules lawyers out there, if you made something legendary, would you be able to put that into your command? I think you would, right? I mean, if you were able to make all your things legendary or whatnot, like there's certain cards that do that. Interesting. Very, very interesting. I think this has a lot of potential. And again, it's a really cool concept. I don't know. Now that first part, I think they might allow like a kind of like weird partnering where it's like, I mean, that just kind of can cause some problems. They'll be able to partner with like basically anything. Like, does Urza need a partner? Probably not, no matter what it does. Essentially, do certain commanders need a partner at all? No. Yeah, I guess Yawgmoth too. Yeah, they probably wouldn't do that at all, because then you're just like, oh yeah, cool, I've got this overpowered monocolor commander, and now all of a sudden, oh cool, I get access to 2 colors now instead of just 1. Also, yeah, that second part is pretty crazy. Being able to replace your commander, that could probably get a little confusing too, but interesting. Very interesting. And then I think this last one, finally, Valko Endorian Researcher, a 2/2 human wizard in Azorius for white and blue. Rulebreaker, if card name is your commander, you may include all artifact and enchantments in your deck, regardless of color identity. I think that's really cool, and I think that kind of could be a concept that actually allow, again, where it is specific on what you can bring in, but being like, yeah, it's a 2-color commander, but hey, you got access to every single artifact and enchantment in any color identity. You can just use them all. I think that's pretty cool. Again, I like that specificity to it. Again, that could obviously apply to creatures, planeswalkers. You can do different kinds of decks with that. Battles, sure, when we get more of those as well, instant sorceries. Whatever, you know, that kind of specific commander is. I could see a spell, you know, slinging commander. It's like, hey, yeah, any instant, no matter what the color. Cool, but I'm just, you know, a single red mana or whatnot. Top of that, artifacts and enchantments you own everywhere have become both types. That's pretty crazy. Now, first up, that's interesting because there is a downside to that as well, right? All your opponent's removal gets better. Not all of it, but, you know, if an opponent has something that just destroys artifacts or just destroys enchantments, now all of a sudden, everything in your deck is more vulnerable. Or, yeah, board wipes. You know, Vandal Blast can take out all your things now instead of just, you know, your artifacts. So there is that consideration. That being said, you get all the benefits from them having both. Again, if you, like, have, like, oh, a number of artifacts in play, number of enchantments in play, whenever you play an artifact, whenever enchantment comes into play, those kind of things, yeah, you're just doubling up on that value. On top of that, whenever you cast an artifact or enchantment spell, you get a counter on this. Cool. I mean, that's probably, I mean, cool. You can have a heavy hitting commander, great, but that's probably not gonna be the focus of the deck. Focus is probably gonna be, you know, all those kind of enchantment artifact synergies. You're gonna get all of them and then some. And also, again, being able to use all 5 colors for that is pretty cool. So I'm on board, I think, for the rule breaker kind of concept. Maybe I regret saying that later, but I'm on board for that. I think, you know, being able to say, hey, color identity, let's play around with that, all right? Let's say, like, you know what? You can't break it in this deck specifically for creatures or for planeswalkers, but hey, if you want to include any artifact or any enchantment in this deck, go for it, because this is the commander that's going to be utilizing those. So I think that's a pretty interesting concept. We'll see if they start doing that in the future. That's one I could see them doing. But yeah, let me know in the comments below about all these. Yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on these. My apologies again for misreading a card or two and making mistakes. But again, I kind of want to just give you, you know, my gut reactions to these versus, you know, overthinking it maybe. So yeah, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on all of these. Do you think some of these concepts could be applied? Do you think some of them are ridiculous and should never be applied? Yeah, have you seen the Colossal Dread Mall yet? Make sure you check that one out too. So yeah, comment below, and of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.